So, what's up, everybody? This is BSP Japan. Uh, I've been having some conversations about this lately with some friends here in Japan, and I know this to be true. And I don't know what I'm going to call this video. You know me, I don't know what to call it until the video's over. But I'm going to talk about loneliness in Japan today. Yes, loneliness. And I chose this setting. It's raining outside. You can hear the rain in my car and on top of my car, and it's a dreary day here in Japan. Not dreary for me, but I'm just saying, weather-wise, it's dreary. And so, it's a good day to talk about loneliness because a lot of people in Japan are lonely, foreigners included. So loneliness in Japan does not discriminate, and then that may be a good title for this. Loneliness does not discriminate in Japan. I talked to some friends here, and he was telling me that, he got here. This particular guy, I'm not going to mention his name. This brother knows what I'm talking about, but he got here March of 2023, and he's been trying to socialize as much as he can, but of course his schedule's been pretty busy for him. He's an English teacher. English teachers don't have the best schedules in Japan because most of the time during the big social time hours they're working. I know that was me too. When I was teaching English in Japan back in the 90s, I'd go to work. My shift would be from 1:20 in the afternoon till 9 o'clock at night. And I remember when I get out of work, because I worked in Osaka and I worked right there in two areas. Tennoji was my first area for a year and a half, and then I did a year and a half at NovaNet in Shinsaibashi, right there on Suji, where the headquarters, where Nova used to be the headquarters. I don't know where it's at now, but before they went during their heydays when I was with Nova. And I remember I'd be teaching, and then on my break I'd look out the window. I was like, oh man, I wish I was out there, walking around in the crowd, like around 6 o'clock, 7 at night, going to eat dinner or whatever. But I always had to wait until I got off. And by the time I got off, yeah, the izakayas would still serve meals, but most of those big places you want to go to, like restaurants where you can kind of intermingle, they were pretty much starting to shut down. And so what I found myself feeling is very lonely. I'd be walking around. I walked around that Suji, Carter, that Shinsaibashi, the covered mall. I mean, I got a lot of miles walking around there. Amemura, Namba. That was my stomping ground right there. Omeda, I got miles in Omeda. I've even walked all the way down Suji, literally from Namba Station all the way down to Umeda Station on Suji on a nice day. I walked, from Uehoma, around Uehomachi Station, from Tennoji, I walked all the way around there. I did a lot of lonely walks with my earbuds in Osaka a lot. And I can attest to that. Yeah, you will be very lonely in Japan. And my fast forward to 2024, my friend is telling me the same thing. He's saying that he hasn't met a lady that he can date with. He's been trying, but he hasn't met anyone. He hasn't really met any real people here besides myself and a couple other expats. He said he knows an expat here, a brother, who speaks fluent Japanese, but he can't seem to meet women, can't seem to pick anybody up. So it's a pretty tough place to be when you're trying to socialize, especially like you used to back home. Now, I do want to say that not everywhere in Japan is like that. Okay, you can get out and you can meet people. You just have to be more involved in the community and things of that nature. And I want to talk about that. But first, I want to talk about the loneliness here. Yes, so, on a daily basis, like myself, I live with my family, of course. I got my wife, my two children. So I'm not lonely. But when I go outside my house, I don't really, affiliate with people. Because the people that I do know where I live in my city, Georgia City, of 181,000 people, I know my neighbors, who all I do is say hi in passing. Remember, I did the video on you will not meet friends in Japan, and you won't. Only associates. So I know my neighbors in passing. I say hello, this, that, the other. Now, one of my neighbors, she's moving out. She lives next door to us, but she's moving. Her and her son. Her son is mentally handicapped. But she looked like she's to be about in the 50s, and she and my wife exchanged phone numbers. What that's going to lead to, I don't know. But that's the first time that's probably happened to my wife and myself here in Japan. Now, so that lady was a really nice neighbor, man. I wouldn't consider her a friend, but we never brought her in our house, and she never brought her to our house. But still, they talk outside a lot. I talk to her a lot outside. So that's a nice lady. It's a nice associate. I would say she's more like a high neighbor friend. Her and then the neighbors directly on the other side of us, we talk to the old lady a lot too. In the mornings when she's out sweeping her yard or sweeping her house. And I go, sometimes I'll talk to her for 20 minutes. My wife will talk to her when she's come back from throwing away to recycle, things like that. So you will be able, if you get involved, you will be able to talk to your neighbors. But that really does depend on where you live. If you're living in a large metropolis like Tokyo, people don't have time for you. They don't have time to sit up there and try to figure you out and try to be your friend and try to talk to you and try to entertain you and try to patronize you, whatever the case may be. It's a big city, and I want to say that it's just like any big city around the world. I've been around the world. I've been in a lot of places around the world. I've lived in 4 countries. Trust me, any major metropolitan area with a lot of people, you're going to feel lonely. You can feel lonely in New York City. You're going to feel lonely in Philadelphia. You're going to feel lonely in a lot of places. Well, I won't take that. Philadelphia, I won't say, because where I come from, we're a big city, but people are pretty friendly. Philly has a small town attitude, so I wouldn't say Philly, you feel lonely in Philly. I don't think you'll feel lonely in Philly. From what I remember, you won't. But I lived in Seattle. I lived in Seattle for, let's see, a total of 20 years. The first time I lived in Seattle in the 90s, I lived there for 2 years after I got back from Japan. And then I went back to Japan, of course, after that. And then the second stretch, this last stretch, I lived there 18 years. And I would say the only people I was able to meet were people I worked with. That was it. To me, Seattle was a very lonely place. Yeah, they're nice, but they're not friendly. You can walk down the street every day in Seattle and you can see the same person. You can talk to the same guy at Starbucks, same lady at Starbucks every day. You see them getting their coffee like you. But the minute you leave the Starbucks, they don't know you. You don't know them. It's just another day. They will never invite you to your house. They'll never invite you to a barbecue, a bar, whatever the case may be. And the same thing goes for you. So that's how it is. So I don't want to say that people are lonely just because they're in Japan. But I think that the reason why loneliness has affected people in Japan more is also because of the lack of understanding of the culture. Now, I will say it also has to do with language barrier, but there are people here who speak fluent Japanese like myself too, who have been lonely. So just because you speak that fluent Japanese don't mean that you won't be lonely. But you do need to be involved in a community which will combat that loneliness. Now, so let's say, for example, you're an English teacher, you're working a shit schedule. Trust me, 1 to 9 is a shit schedule. You have no time to socialize whatsoever. But if you're working like Nova, I don't know if they still have it. They used to have the 10 to 5 schedule. When you get off work at 5, you have a higher chance of socializing than somebody working a 1 to 9. That doesn't mean that you're going to be guaranteed not to be lonely, but you have a higher instance of running into people on a regular basis because those people are also working those similar hours. Now, so here's the thing, because a lot of people, when they finish work, I know that was me. I finished work before, and man, I'd go grab me a bite to eat. If I got lucky, I'd meet some expats, friends of mine at the bars or something. We have like a little izakaya, Japanese pub. We eat, we drink, and whatever. Then I'd go home, and that was pretty much it. I was lonely when I got back. I mean, I myself did not feel lonely, but I know that I was lonely. Let's put it that way. Because I'm the kind of person that I could, go out and do what I got to do whenever I need to do it. And I think that most people, the majority of people who are saying that they're lonely can do that too. But what they're trying to say is, and what I'm going to say as well, is but going out and meeting people and saying, hey, let's be friends, let's hang out, this, that, the other, that ain't going to happen. I'll give you another example of that. I always got examples for shit. So in my neighborhood, I just recently met this guy when I was throwing away garbage. About a month and a half ago, he speaks fluent English, Japanese guy. You trust me, they'll let you know if they speak English. We were speaking Japanese. I said good morning. He said good morning back. I said, oh, you speak English? He said, yes, I can speak English, because he taught English in middle school for a few years in Japan. And so now he doesn't work in middle school. He supports his wife's business. But him and I made the arrangement. I said, okay, let's hook up at Starbucks. So we hooked up at Starbucks for about 2 or 3 hours. We were talking and this, that, the other. We text each other back and forth almost on the daily. But I haven't seen that guy since. So, and I haven't gotten any invitation from him since. So, so that guy was who I was thinking, well, maybe this guy could be a friend of mine. But knowing what I know about Japan, that ain't the case. That's not the case. That guy is just an associate who happens to be texting me back and forth because we have this something in similar, like we both like the stock market, things of that nature. But that's as far as that goes. A lot of people won't even get that far in Japan, especially foreigners. You won't get that far. And what I'm trying to tell you too is it does not just apply to foreigners. It also applies to Japanese. A lot of Japanese will move to Tokyo, right? From their prefectures, Aomori, Niigata, whatever the case may be, because the opportunities are there, right? So they'll get there, but they're lonely. They go to work, they deal with their associates, but when they get off work, they're lonely. They're not with anybody. Yeah, now they may start to hang out, but they use their, hanging out with people at work. Like, oh yeah, we got a function after work. We got this after work. That kind of plays really well for the employer, because the employer's like, well, look, I know you don't know anybody. I know you ain't got nothing to do when you get off work. So that's why we got to do these company outings. You see how that works? So they take full advantage of that loneliness in people, right? But really, it's like, like this brother that I'm talking about, he's from England. And he's like, yeah, man, I could be in London and I can be in England and I can be talking around and meeting people and talking and, getting to know people. But keep in mind, that could be me in the U.S. too. But those people are superficial. They're not really going to be into you. They're only into you for because they need something. They got to get something out of you. You see what I mean? So it doesn't just apply to Japan, but like I said, it's in other countries too. But like once again, what I'm saying here is, in Japan, it seems bigger because of the language barrier and the cultural barrier, the lack of understanding of Japanese culture and how things work and when to communicate with a Japanese person. That's what it really boils down to. Now, so how do you combat this loneliness? How do you combat this like you get guys out there saying, well, man, I haven't dated in a while, man, I don't know the girls in it. Well, look, like I said before, that depends on where you live. If you live on the seaside of Japan, or you live in a medium-sized city, like I said, like a Toyama, or like a Nagano city, or like, somewhere in Shikoku, you live in these other places that a lot of people don't normally frequent. Shimane Prefecture, Fukui Prefecture, Yamaguchi Prefecture, you Kitakyushu City, Shimonoseki. You go to those kind of places, you're going to meet people because people are going to be curious about you. They're no longer curious in Tokyo. You're just another person walking down the street. You're just another gaijin walking down the street in Tokyo or Osaka. Oh, yeah, okay, whatever. But like I said, out here where I live, you get a lot of play. I give you another example of shit. Because I got examples of shit, right? So I was at my son's soccer games this weekend. And there's all kind of soccer teams coming from all over the prefecture there, right? So I happen to be going to the restroom, and there's these 4 ladies standing with each other. And then, so, I look over and they look at me. I said, because I noticed they said out, and I said, hello. And then I was trying to be nice, and I kept going. And then I heard the one lady say, Kakui, man. And the other woman's like, yeah, he's so cool. And so, see, you get that a lot out here where I live, because there's not that many of us at all. So, therefore, you have a higher chance of running into a mate out here where I'm at, or anywhere in the seaside of Japan. A higher chance. It really does depend on where you are. That's why you're probably feeling as lonely as you feel. It depends on where you are. See? So, like I said, myself, when I leave my house and leave my family, yeah, I'm out here by myself. I don't know anybody, like I said, other than who I associate with. But I'm not even looking to meet anybody either. I'm not looking to hook up with anybody. Because this state I'm in, when I leave my house, leave my family at home, this does not bother me. I'm comfortable with my environment. And another thing you want to remember too is, if you know some expat friends, that means you're not lonely. If you have some expatriates you can talk to, you're not lonely. Like my friend in Tokyo, he's not lonely. He's got me. He's got some few other people to talk to. As long as you got one of us to talk to, you're not lonely. You see? So don't pass up on friendships with other expats because you can learn a lot from each other. See? And you really can become friends. I'm still in contact with expats I met back in the 90s today. I know a guy and his wife living in Wakayama. I'm still in contact with him. I had a guy living in Setagaya that I knew in Osaka that ended up moving to Tokyo. Then he left. He's from Canada. Now he's living in what's the name of that place? In Luxembourg now. So, I still keep in touch with people. I keep in touch with my peeps. So don't overlook your chance of becoming friends with expats. You can't say you're lonely if you already have some expats that you're connected with, right? Lonely means literally you got nobody to talk to. And a lot of Japanese are like that. They have nobody to talk to, nobody to play with, nobody to associate with. They are literally bone-struck lonely in Japan. They're not going to meet a woman. They're not going to meet a wife. They're not going to meet friends. They're not going to meet anybody. Only dealings they got with are people at work, and that's it. If they're working a dead-end job, it's going to make it even more lonely for them. Even lonelier, yes, for them. See? So now, like I said, how do you combat that loneliness? Well, you need to get out. You need to venture out. You need to, get away from those. If you're the kind of person that requires a lot of social networking, get out of those major cities. Get into these cute, beautiful little mid-sized towns like Toyama, Nagano, Hirosaki up in Aomori City, Misawa, Akita City. Get into, even where I'm at, Georgia City, but, I always never mention it because you need a car here. You need to vamp up here. But we have a lot of beautiful cities here. Itoigawa, which by the way, I was in Itoigawa the last 2 weekends on day trips. It's actually only an hour away from me. Itoigawa Station is only an hour away from where we live. I saw quite a few foreigners down there. I said hello to them, said hello to me as they walk on my stage. Hey, what's up? You can tell they're from Australia or whatever. But yeah, so that means the next time I go there, if I see the same guys, then if I got time, I say, hey man, what's up? You got time for a beer? You got time to grab a car? Yeah, man, what's up? What's going on? So how you like? Then you strike up a conversation. Next you know, you ran into somebody, you're an associate, you start hanging out more, next you know, you become friends. That's how it usually works. So don't ignore your expats. That's another thing where you can combat loneliness. So be approachable. A lot of times people don't understand why they're lonely. They're lonely because they come off as being unapproachable. Like myself, I had people come to me a lot and says, like this one guy. I was somewhere. What was I at the? I think it was at the soccer thing. Where the guy's like, "Oh man, we thought you were like a hardcore guy because you look and walk around like you're all unapproachable, but you're a very friendly guy." And the guy said, "Man, you're cool, man. You're a cool dude, man. I didn't know you was like that." So a lot of times Japanese don't know what you're like unless you come out and talk to them. See what I'm saying? So don't always wait. Not always wait. Don't wait for a Japanese to try to befriend you. Don't wait for a Japanese to come up on you, right? You need to be the one that comes up on them. You need to be the one that shows them that, hey, look, I know I got this look, this like me when I walk around all day. I'm like, that's my look on my face. It doesn't look intimidating to some people. I guess it does. Am I trying to do that? No. I'm just going about doing my regular daily business, taking care of my business, handling my business. But, once I smile at people and they if they know me, recognize me, or I smile and say, oh, hi. Because what I do is, like, you see me on some of my videos that I'm done doing where the neighbors would come up and I'm like, oh, konnichiwa, because I know these people. I know them. If I don't know them, I'm not going to say anything to them. Like the one lady that was cleaning her house across from, I'm getting my house built. I mean, like on the side street. I recognized her because I met her when we were going around. And she might have recognized me too. But in conversating, I treated her like I met her for the first time, but I know I didn't. I know we had met her before. See? So all I'm saying is that you need to be aware of where you live, first of all, because if you do live in a big city, big cities are a little harder to meet because you can be living in an apartment building and nobody in that apartment building is going to care who you are. You could be dead 4 weeks, nobody give a damn in an apartment building. Nobody would care. Where I live, in the neighborhood, like a community, and I'm a community member. I get to know people. That's how you're gonna keep from being lonely, by being in the community. You be in the community. You do the things that you're told. You go above and beyond. You're gonna have friends. This is the bottom line. You're gonna have friends. I mean, you're gonna start meeting people that are gonna consider you a friend. See, and then you in turn may say they're a friend, and that because they're bringing over to your house. You know, they're eating over your house. They're sharing information, things of that nature. It usually doesn't work out that way, but still, you're not lonely if you can wake up and go out of your house and you can talk to your neighbors on the street for 20 minutes, right? I mean, well, you still are technically because you don't have anybody in your house. You don't have anybody to go eat dinner with, stuff like that. So you technically still are lonely. But you're going to be a lot lonely. You're always going to be a lot lonelier in those bigger metropolitan areas. Enjoy the city. Where I go around, if I recognize somebody, they wave at me, I wave at them. That's a good feeling. It's always a good feeling to be a part of a community and people acknowledge you. It's like, hey, like, you know how Japanese are. He's like, you know, like they're surprised, you know, konnichiwa, you know. So that kind of thing. So they really get up on that. So another thing too is I want to mention something about the dating scene here in Japan, and because I was kind of shocked when my friend told me that the brother that spoke Japanese fluent hasn't met any women over here. That is pretty strange because look, I went to Shinjuku with my friend back last summer, and I spoke to 4 or 5 girls just sitting there for the good 35 minutes I was there. So I didn't have no problem. So, you know, I don't know if it's me, my appeal. I don't know. It's the confidence in myself. But I know that a lot of guys, you got to have that confidence, and you got to be willing to go up and talk to anybody. That's what it boils down to. It really does. You really have to be willing to talk to anybody to keep yourself from being lonely. That's all I want to say about that. So, with that said, this is BSP Japan. I'm just talking to you about, loneliness here in Japan. And it's you're lonely, but something can be done about it. Like I said, you can join a community, you can get to know people in your community, and therefore get more ties to the people in your community. So, this is BSP Japan. I'm out.